Hey everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it's Friday. It's gloomy. It's raining in Minnesota. I don't know where you're at, wherever you're at. I hope you have a little bit more sun than we do, because we have none. But it's Friday. The weather is like indicative right now of Minnesota sports. It's gloomy. There's no sun in sight, and we never know when this is going to end. Like, we are just going to be in sports purgatory forever, it feels like. But you know what? There's always hope at the end of the tunnel. There's always new sports coming up. We got to talk about the Wild and the Wolves, because they might be the sun at the end of the tunnel we're looking for. But we got to get locked in on the show today. I'm Ron Johnson. That's Reggie Wilson. We got Julia Daniels from Care 11 as well joining us, and Sam Ekstrom, the producer with the juicer. I don't know. It's the hostess with the mostest. It's the producer with the juicer.
I'll take it.
But again, this is Locked On Sports Minnesota. This is the Friday Roundtable. I am your host, Ron Johnson, for the day. I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase Case, providing you with a personal supply of 5+ antibiotics that you can treat 50. That's 50+ infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Well, we got to get locked in on this show. It's imperative we do that. So, Reggie, what you got?
Twins. It's so hard. No, was this season a success? We'll talk about it.
Also, Wild or Wolves? Which winter sport should fans be more excited about?
Gophers hockey debuts tonight at the X against the plucky St. Thomas Tommies. I'm going to give a college hockey plug before this show is done.
I knew Sam was going to get into Gophers hockey. It is Gophers, so I'm okay with it. The Gophers football is on a bye week, so we're not talking about them. But they do have Iowa coming up, and that's going to be a big talker next week because it's the Floyd of Rosedale. But the Vikings and the Bears, I mean, I don't know what they play for. I don't know if they're playing for anything right now. I sent the message to Spice Adams about this Bears offense and what they're possibly going to do in this Bears defense. I'll tell you what he told me. And Vikings fans, you should be a little bit pissed off about how the Bears view the Vikings right now. And we'll jump into that coming up next on Locked On Sports Minnesota. And remember, people, Jase Medical. This episode is brought to you by Jase Medical, JASE medical.com. Well, I'm going to kick it off. We got to talk Vikings, Bears. And Sam, to make a prediction on the game, I am not positive. I don't have any positivity. I am very perplexed. I'm very annoyed. And I'm going to pay off the tease. I asked Spice Adams. I reached out to him right away because I know Sam had asked me about that. And I'm like, you know what's funny? Like, I have not talked Vikings, Bears with my boy. And so I text him like, yo, on 3rd and 7, Kirk Cousins come to the line of scrimmage. Because he's a defensive guy. I'm like, what can we expect from the Bears defense? This is what he responded. It doesn't matter because Justin Jefferson is not playing. I was like, wow. So that's how the Bears are really feeling right now, that it does not matter what we do because you guys don't have Justin Jefferson. And so for my prediction, I do feel like the Vikings can come away with a win because I feel like the Bears are maybe underestimating now the Vikings because they are without Justin Jefferson. There's no extra film study needed to figure out how to stop number 18, but they forgot about number 3. And I know he's a rookie. Nobody knows him. 87 has to come through in TJ Hawkinson. But my bold prediction, I think we're going to see a Jordan Addison emergence night. Like, he's going to have 10 targets, and he's going to absolutely let the Bears and the world know, hey, don't forget about me. I know Justin Jefferson's out, but I'm still the first-round draft pick. I don't want to be a JAG according to Steve Smith and how we talked about Jerry Jeudy. I'm not a Jag. I'm not just a guy. I'm going to show you guys. So that's my bro prediction. I think the Vikings can get a win, but I think Jordan Addison's going to have 10 targets. I think they are going to go to him over KJ Osborne. I think TJ Hawkinson will be in the mix, but Jordan Addison's going to fill in for the missing Justin Jefferson. What you got, Reggie?
Yeah, bold prediction. I think it's going to be a one-score game because they're all one-score games. So like, really though, I think the Bears are coming off that 40-20 win over the Commanders, and coming off that win, I would say, wow, like this could be a tough one for the Vikings. But then, like, if you factor Justin Jefferson in and some of the strides that the offense has made throughout the season, I'm like, I don't know if the Bears are on their level just yet. But then now that Justin Jefferson is out, I think things have just kind of evened out a little bit. So I think it's going to be a really close game. One thing about Jordan Addison is he doesn't have that protector anymore. You know, Justin Jefferson drawing the double teams and all that. And we've kind of seen Addison struggle a little bit to beat that press coverage at the next level because he's a little bit of an undersized guy. And so I think Justin Jefferson's absence is going to do wonders for Addison's development because it's like, look, if you're going to develop, if you're going to turn into the receiver that everybody knows and wants you to be, like, this is your time to do it. This is the time to step up as wide receiver one. But we also have seen a bit of inconsistent play from KJ Osborne this season as well. So I think he's got to step up as well. Like, it's going to take all these guys. I think Kevin O'Connell, this is going to be a test for him as well to scheme up because we saw at times last season, we've seen at times this season, that offense kind of gets stuck in the mud. You know, all of a sudden you just see multiple 3-and-outs and you're like, okay, what's going on? And that was with Justin Jefferson on the field. And so now that he's not on the field, Kevin O'Connell is going to have to find a way to scheme up guys open and really keep the chains moving. And we'll probably see a lot more TJ Hockenson as well. He's going to have to make sure he secures and holds on to the football with each time that the ball goes to him. So I think it's going to be a very, very competitive game, but I do think the Vikings can win.
I will say this before I go to Sam. Reggie, speaking of your one-score games, here's the correct score, people, for FanDuel. We are going to jump into the locks in the next segment, but just so you understand, everybody is betting one-score games for the Minnesota Vikings. 16-14 Bears, 16-13 Bears, 16-10 Bears, 14-13 Bears, 13. Oh my goodness! Like,
you can bet any score pretty much, right?
Well, it's all pretty much one-score games though. Like, nobody's really like picking the Vikings in these as far as FanDuel has. Like, you have to go all the way down to the very bottom, and you do. But the majority of these, yeah, you can pick any score, but the majority is all one score. So like what FanDuel is offering is one-score games as well. So Reggie, your point was spot on. There's a 31-21 Bears, but that's about it. The rest of these are all one-score deals. The majority though have the Bears beating the Vikings. So it's very perplexing. But if you want plus 23,000 odds, you could take the Bears 24, Vikings 14. That's one of the bigger ones out there. Also, Bears 24, Vikings 13. So nobody really thinks the Bears can blow the Vikings out. So one score is probably your way to go. But Sam, what do you think? What is your prediction on this game?
Yeah, when the Vikings play at Soldier Field, win or lose, it's usually ugly. Look at some of the recent scores in the Kirk Cousins era at Soldier. And I'm not counting last year's Week 18 game that didn't mean anything. Previous scores include 17-9, Vikings win. 19-13, Vikings win. 16-6, Bears win. These are the last three scores in meaningful regular season games at Soldier Field. And you know what? The Vikings could use an ugly win. They've played okay in some losses where they put up points and they did some cool things. Just muck it up and grind it out and get the job done and win the game ugly. I don't care what the score is. Get the W. Secondly, people are talking about Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne stepping up into Justin Jefferson's role, and that's valid. But also, you're going to have to put another body out on the field at wide receiver, and that's going to be Brandon Powell. And that was one of my favorite players in the preseason and training camp. I thought he looked really good, and now that he's given the chance, I'm putting Brandon Powell on 7 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown in this game. He might be the one that while people hone in on Jordan Addison, Brandon Powell might be the one who finds himself open.
That's a good one. Julia.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page that this one is a toss-up, unfortunately, when it comes to the Bears. Yeah, I would say Brandon Powell, they just signed Tristan Jackson and N'Keal Harry to the active roster. The Jordan Addison take, I will say, he has been limited all week at practice. with some kind of ankle injury. So we will see how that plays out on Sunday, and we'll see what the practice report says today. But I also think everyone, I think the first 2 weeks of the season, I would go to places, whether I was at Gophers or wherever, and it's obviously Vikings fans everywhere, and they would say, at this point, we should just tank, you're 1-4. And we all know Brian Flores doesn't tank. That's pretty obvious to all of us. But I was reading a Strib article by Mark Craig where he was talking about, number one, a 1 turnover game should not be a small victory for an NFL team, which I think some people said that it was this past week. He said they should be increasing the takeaways on the defensive side of the ball, which was something that Ed Donatel's defense did well in crucial moments. So I think that that's something that the Bears, that is the team that it should be easier than say the rest of the schedule to maybe increase some takeaways and get that defense rolling. But on the offensive side of the ball too, I think you're right, Sam, in saying like you have guys like Brandon Powell and other people that can be weapons that maybe the Bears aren't expecting. They don't have a lot of film on these guys. They don't know what they can do. But I also will say Wes Phillips said in his presser yesterday that they're not changing their offensive identity just because JJ's not there. So we'll have to see how these receivers fit into that scheme.
See, and I agree with that too, but I hate when offensive coordinators say that. They have to say that just for the media. You're definitely changing. There's no way you can run the same offense.
Well, they're not going to say that they're changing either.
No, true. I just hate that. Like if I was offensive coordinator, and that's why I probably would get fired. But if they ask me like, what are you going to do differently? I'm like, man, I'm going to pray because I don't have Justin Jefferson. And then next, I'm gonna just throw the ball to whoever's open. Like, but no, you do keep this offense pretty much the same, but your play calling is not going to be the same. So I think that's where the Bears. That's why Spice is so confident. That's why they all feel great about this. But the one thing I will say about the Bears, and I've watched this a couple times on film now, their cover 2 is flawed. Their cover 2 is flawed because of the young players. And the way cover 2 is supposed to work is the middle field should have a linebacker to help where their linebackers get sucked underneath by tight ends. That's why I think Jordan Addison, if he can go and he's full go with that speed. If they don't have him, that's why I think Sam brought this up, the Jalen Naylor missing piece. Like that could have been a person to have a big game in Justin Jefferson's absence. And so, yeah, just taking advantage of the fact that they're covered 2, that the safeties get lost. They don't get off the hash often. So some of that deep rail shot stuff is there. It's going to suck without Justin Jefferson because Justin Jefferson would have for sure made those safeties pick the wrong guy. And then you got Jordan Addison hauling tail down the sideline. And yeah, this is just one of those seasons where it's like the rain. I feel like Missy Elliott right now is sitting outside on my deck just singing. She can't stop the rain because that's what it feels like. I don't know. I know Reggie started off with the Boys to Men. We got that coming up later. But it's like Missy Elliott. I can't stop the rain. It's my window. I mean, that's what I feel like right now. Like that's where Vikings fans are looking out their windows. Like you've seen that meme. Super sad. But we got to move into these locks, people, because I know everybody loves FanDuel. Everybody loves a good bet. That's one of the biggest things going around in the NFL right now is players who have gotten in trouble for betting are getting those slaps on the wrist taken off because they're like, well, look, you can bet. Just don't bet on your own team and don't do it in your own facility. Like, can we at least agree on that? Players are like, fine, I'll go sit in the car and I'll bet. So speaking of some things to help these Vikings players make some bets, they can't bet on their own team, though, so don't listen. Turn it off if you're a Vikings player. What do you guys think about some locks? I'll start with you, Reggie, for this one for FanDuel.
This is such a hard thing. So the line is Minnesota -3.
Yep. So
like it's just kind of hard to pick a quote unquote lock, but you know what? I've always said since he got into this league that I believe in Justin Fields. So Justin Fields, 200 plus yards. I'll take that.
Whoa. Okay. So,
I was kind of good. I was going to go the opposite way with Kirk Cousins. I've looked at Kirk Cousins at Soldier Field as a Viking. 4 out of 5 games, he's been under 250 yards passing. And that's his over-under, 250.5 yards. And I've looked at the forecast. It's raining all weekend in Chicago. It's going to be 56 and drizzly. Those are not ideal passing conditions. I'm still thinking ugly, ugly football game. Kirk Cousins under on the yardage, 250.5 yards. So it's an anti-Vikings lock. Sorry, everybody. I still think they can win, but I don't think Kirk's going to light it up through the air.
Julia.
Can I do 2?
Yeah.
I'm just first drive result. I'm saying touchdown by the Vikings plus 270, and I'm going to add to it and say Cam Akers. We're going bold, right? We're going bold. Also, will there be overtime plus 1460? It could be so miserable that there's a miserable overtime.
Don't do that to me.
I got to do the post-game show. Don't do that.
Don't
subject
this could be the
more.
one. This could be the one.
Nobody wants
you
to
win a lot of money. You win a lot of money.
Don't, Julia. Can we just mute her for the rest of the show? That's just ridiculous.
It's like when the Kardashians sit down to have a conversation. Nobody wants to hear this.
I'll give her the Tony Reale.
Every time Jada Pinkett opens up her mouth, I'm like, no, we don't need to hear about Tupac. He's been dead.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody wants overtime, just like nobody wants Jada Pinkett.
That's what I'm saying.
One more thing.
Could be a miserable.
Take us out the group chat. It's okay, Jada. We don't care.
The Jada Pinkett memes, by the way, have to be the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Somebody just posted a meme of Tupac in heaven talking about why she lying on me. I was like, what? Why like Diddy didn't kill Tupac? Now Jada trying to relive his life. Like, oh, I'm like, what? And his girlfriend that he was dating at the time was like, wait, so you asked her to marry you? Like, we was dating. Like, dang, Jay, like you was. Oh man, this is just. And Will just sit back like, what I do? Why y'all? I'm just trying to be the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Let's get this show back on the roll on the rails. Julia and her overtime prediction. So Julia is picking overtime. If you really want to get sexy, no is minus 3,500 plus is yes is plus 1,460 for overtime. My lock, I just think it's a simple one. I'm gonna go DJ Moore plus 40 yards, Jordan Addison plus 40 yards. Those are my two. I just think 40 yards for those two should be simple. Like Sam said, when you got conditions like that, you're gonna throw a lot of check down, under route stuff, and that's what DJ Moore. I mean, he's been running a ton of quick outs. He's been running a ton of shallow stuff. One, because Justin Fields, if you notice, some of his deep balls have not been accurate. He's actually hit big plays on passes that are less than 15 yards. So air yards for Justin Fields on his big plays are actually less than 15 yards in the air. And then DJ Moore has been making plays for him, and some of the other receivers as well have been making plays for him. So I'm going to go DJ Moore. I'm also going to go Jordan Addison for that same reason. I think Kirk Cousins. The other one, and I'm not sure if they have it, I haven't looked through, is the Cam Akers. I like the Julia one, but Cam Akers dump off passes. Like if there's one for like Cam Akers to have 3 catches, that might be another one, because in this conditions, what's the best thing to do? You dump it off to a running back in space, let him make a linebacker fall because of the field and the grass and the naturalness of the turf in that weather, and the fact that the city of Chicago doesn't care about the field. So we know they're not going to take care of it because they're like, you want to leave us? Deal with it. But those are our FanDuel locks for the game. Make sure you guys go to FanDuel.com if you want to place bets, or you can just go to the app. Like any device you have, go to the app. You can see all the deals. You have to live in a state that carries it. The states will pop up. I click Iowa, even though I'm not logged on. It won't let me bet because I'm in Minnesota, but I'm actually heading to Iowa this weekend for softball. So, you know what I'm going to be doing.
Ron betting on overtime.
I'm betting. Oh, Lord. No, not the overtime.
Do it.
Put $5 on overtime, 1460, and then no, we don't want that. But if I bet a big one on it, but no, I'm gonna probably there's some money in there. But we do have a word from our sponsors, because coming up next, we got to talk about the Twin Seasons over. Reggie's gonna sing a little Boys to Men for us. We got to talk about the Wild and the Wolves, because we know one of them is more important than the other. We're all gonna take our thoughts. I know where I'm going, and then it's Gophers hockey. There's no Gopher football, so we're gonna let Sam do a shameless plug for Gopher hockey. But we have a word from our sponsors before we get to that.
Ron gave you the full rundown on FanDuel. We told you what you can wager. And if you're interested, this is the promotion that you can take advantage of if you're a new user at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get $200 free in bonus bets when you place a $5 wager. That's guaranteed, win or lose, 40 times your money. Bet 5, get 200. And then you can put that 200 on whatever you want. Put it on some of these crazy alternate receiving totals, betting on overtime, over-unders, futures, props, whatever you want at FanDuel. Dozens of ways, every single game to wager. FanDuel.com/lockedon, good place to get started, or the FanDuel Sportsbook app. And bet the NFL with FanDuel, an official partner of the National Football League.
Well, it's time to get on with this twin season. Reggie, take the song away.
How do I say goodbye? No, so
to what?
oh, you gonna keep it going?
I just remember Kid and Play from the movie. That's
there we go. There we go.
That's my
Yeah.
favorite one.
Sam,
Kid
is that
Play
for the
was going
song
to
or is
college.
Joanne Duran coming out?
Yeah, I thought Duran was here. Bring the heat.
So here's the thing, man. So the Twins went out sad. They set a major league record with 1,654 strikeouts this year. And in the last game of the season, what turned out to be anyway, they struck out 14 times. In back-to-back games, they could only muster 3 hits in each of the last 2 games. And that last game was theirs for the taking. All it took was just a couple clutch hits, just a couple. And you're talking about you're winning that game 3-2. Like the pitching, say what you want about the decisions that Rocco made, pulling Joe Ryan and, putting Theobar in, Theobar giving up yet another gigantic blast to Abreu. But that game was there for the taking. Like, there's a possibility that I'm doing this podcast right now from a hotel in Houston right now if they win that game. But now, it was interesting talking to Carlos Correa. He was just like, I want the guys to use this as fuel. They got a little taste of the postseason, so we're going to come back next year and be better. And then he said this: I trust the front office that they're going to put the guys in place so that we can be better next year. Translation: we need some help because I can't do it by myself. Me and Royce can't shoulder this whole thing by ourselves. We need some help if we want to beat teams like the Astros. And I agree with him. The question was this season a success? Last year, they dropped the division in the most tragic way. This year, they were able to win the division. They make it to the playoffs. They win a postseason game for the first time in 75,000 years. They win a postseason series for the first time since 2002. So if you're a glass half full person, you say, yeah, this season is a success for sure. I mean, they went further than many might have expected. But if you are an all or nothing type of guy, you're like, no, like they came short of a championship. They had a lot of good momentum going in this postseason and just flopped. And ultimately, if you don't win a championship, I mean, some people would say it's a success considering what they did, but I wouldn't say that that's a success because they didn't win what their ultimate goal was. But I do think that they are in great position. One thing the postseason did show us is that the kids are all right. The kids are all right. Eddie Julian, Royce Lewis, these youngsters, they can bring it. And so I think that gives confidence for Twins fans that, they do put a few more pieces together. They do fix this strikeout problem, and maybe next year they go a little bit further.
Yeah, I'm going to optimistically give them the success box checked. I'm going to say, yeah, It was a success. You did something you hadn't done in 2 decades. You gave the fans an absolute thrill. You tested the world champs in the Houston Astros, who eat ALDS series for breakfast, 7 in a row now in the ALCS. I think you set the table well for next year because you've now seen what a lot of these young guys have to offer. You have an idea for what your core is moving forward, and it's a young, inexpensive core. Look at their salary cap situation. They're clearing probably like $40 million in guys, and you're going to lose a couple valuable pieces, probably Sonny Gray, probably Maeda. But you get rid of that Joey Gallo money, that Tyler Malley money. Like, they can reinvest $40 million to help this roster if it's just apples to apples. If they spend the money that they're getting off the books, they can go out and get help. So whether that's pitching, whether that's more hitting, it'd be nice to have a little cheat code like Yordan Alvarez in the lineup, wouldn't it? Just someone who is going to barrel up everything he swings at. So I think that you can definitely supplement this roster with some veterans. And hey, we did see some of those young guys were great in the postseason, and some of them totally shied away. Like Alex Kirilloff and Matt Wallner didn't get a hit. Ryan Jeffers was brutal. Like, the bottom of that order was struggling. So I think they can still add some veteran pieces, guys that have been around the block, and make this a real contender next year. Because now the expectation will be higher.
Yeah, I would agree with everything both of you guys said. I would say to the question of was it a success? Yes, just like Sam said. And if I have to hear somebody say they got the monkey off their back one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. But they did. They did something that they hadn't done in so long. I would go the route of it was a success as well because of the off the field things too. Max Kepler, I talked to Ryan Jeffers about the same thing. The clubhouse was different this year. The guys got along. You bring in a guy like Pablo Lopez, and I know Reggie, you've interacted with him. He is one of the best guys ever. And the entire team adores him because, yes, he's an amazing pitcher, but also because he really came in and brought that clubhouse all together. He created the Land of 10,000 Rakes Fest. He brought in the Fisher Price fishing pole. He did a lot of that. Also, Kyle Farmer was I think, another part of the glue for the clubhouse and the chemistry that they had. The guys really liked him. He brought a new kind of leadership because I think last year it was solely on Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton to try and fill those leadership roles. And that's a lot to ask of just 2 guys, especially when you have so many young guys in a clubhouse. You also have guys like Sonny Gray, who's been vocal in the past few days about he wants to be back here next year. And I think that that's something that, I haven't been covering the Twins, but this is just my second season, but it's different than last year. Guys weren't saying like, can't wait to be back here. And then you bring in a guy like Sonny Gray, who's so talented and is like, yeah, this is where I want to be. I think we have something that we can build off of. Obviously, we've seen what success that we had this postseason. Can't wait to see what we can do next year. So I think that the off the field part too. Also, Chris Paddock being back. I wish he would have gotten to start at some point this postseason. Obviously, coming off Tommy John, you have to be careful with those things. But what we saw from him, there's some serious potential for that Twins rotation, even more so than what we saw this year. So I think that there's a lot to be excited about. And I would call that a success because that's something that Twins fans didn't have last year.
Yeah, I'm gonna be quick with it. I'd say yes, it's a success. Not to be a Debbie Downer, because that's what everybody wants Minnesota to be. I will say they could have been one of the teams that didn't make the playoffs. They could have been one of the teams that didn't win the division. I think the way it ended didn't feel successful. Just because to go down looking, having Carlos Correa. I mean, how cinematic would that have been to have Carlos Correa come up to the plate with a chance to send them back to Houston, even if they lost Game 5? Just the fact that Carlos Correa was on deck, and Dusty said it. He's like, we really didn't want him coming to the plate because he had an extra added of like, I really want to beat these guys. Like, I want to be the Bryce Harper for the Minnesota Twins and have the big moment on Sports Center. I want to be that guy. And so to not even get a chance and the guy in front of you to go down looking, Like that, I think is tough. Now we can talk about strike zone and, is it inside the white line? Did it hit the plate and blah, blah. Like that space between the plate and that white line is like that. You got to swing. And that's what's so tough for people to keep saying, like, the didn't get it right. It's that, if it's that close, you swing. You swing for your season. If you're going to go down, I'd rather you go down swinging on an inside fastball and just say, hey, he got me. But you got to know 0-2 count, it's not going to be a sweet meatball down the middle. He's going to try to paint a corner to one, try to get a strike, maybe go high to hope you swing. And so you got to pick which, you got to kind of know. Like that's why baseball and pitching and batting is so intricate when it comes to softball and baseball. You got to know the count, who's on the mound. I know you couldn't cheat and have a device to tell you what they saw coming with the sign, but you got to know he's coming inside. He's going to come inside with some kind of heat because he doesn't want to give you a meatball down the middle. He's not trying to get strike 3 down the middle. He has 3 pitches to throw some junk and get you to swing at it. We even saw it, I think, before where it was the balls into the ground, unless I was looking at the wrong game, but I'm pretty sure that was that game where he threw like 3 into the dirt and fell off the mound. Was that the Twins game where the pitcher for the Astros fell off the mound?
Yep.
That's what I thought. Okay,
yeah.
So because he was trying to throw those into the dirt, knowing I'm up. If I can get him to swing at this and I'm going low, I'm not putting this in his zone. And then you come up to the next guy and he's not thinking. Like, he's not going to come down the middle. So you just got to be ready to swing. But the way it ended, not a fan of it. I think you got to go down swinging. Correa, I wish he had got a shot because I was sitting there just like everybody else in the world saying, this is about to be a movie. Like Cam Bynum was somewhere screaming, movie, because this was about to be a movie. Carlos Correa up at the plate with the chance to send them back to Houston to play one more game. Didn't go their way, but, it is what it is. We got to move on to the next topic. Julia, take it away.
Ooh, this winter, Wild or Wolves? Why not both, guys? Come on. Why do we have to pick one? I got to go with the easier answer just because I was at the Wild game last night and the Wolves haven't started their season yet. Wild looked decent. They've got some young guys that I think they can rely on. Also, they signed those extensions for Ryan Hartman, Matt Zuccarello, and Moose. I think the team chemistry seems really good this year. I mean, Dean Evison has a way of bringing us all together, doesn't he? But last night, the young talent was what I saw really shining with Marco Rossi. I mean, he scored a goal, but obviously, the Panthers challenged it. It was offsides. But Brock Faber, man, he's the real deal. I think that there's a lot to be excited about this Wild team. Obviously, they're still trying to, get past the first round of the playoffs, just like most Minnesota sports teams are. But yeah, I would go with that. Wolves, I think, should they figure out their personality issues, it's a long season. I know that they have talked so much about being more mature this year, handling each other's emotions better, trying to fit those pieces together on and off the court. We'll see how that plays out. But just from what I saw last night, Wild looked pretty good.
Reggie.
Yeah, I'll go Wolves. Just because this is gonna be full off season with chemistry. Rudy Gobert, Cat, they're both healthy coming into this year. And we kind of talked about this on the basketball party on Wednesday, but I just think that they have a high upside based on their chemistry and based on the talent that's on this roster, and also the continual ascension of Anthony Edwards. I just really want to see how these guys are going to gel together and how Ant is going to kind of rise a little bit above everyone else to really kind of make this his team and put everybody on his back and say, okay, I'm the guy, follow me. I'm going to help win this game. Let's, do this Mamba mentality thing. I think, this is going to be a fun season for the Wolves. And I think this is the season. I can't remember the last time I felt anything like this about the Wolves, but I feel with the Wolves, they do have a good a chance as any to make it out of the first round and actually maybe go a little bit deeper into the postseason. There are a lot of question marks with a lot of teams in the West. And so I think this could be an opportunity for the Wolves to do something, but they gotta get that chemistry together.
Yeah, I love the Wild. I love Guerin. I love Evison. They can't show me anything new until April. I'm on cruise control with them until the playoffs because I think they got the same nucleus, the same coaching staff. I think they're going to make it. I think they're good enough to make the playoffs, but you got to win a playoff series to really get my attention now. They have proven too many times that they're not ready to do that at that level. Their stars don't show up. They've been outcoached in those series, goaltending controversies. The Wolves can really get this town on fire for basketball. We call it the state of hockey, but man, the Twin Cities loves good basketball, and they haven't had it with the Gophers in several years. And they wanted to have it with the Wolves last year, didn't really show up for them. But I think this town is ready to get behind a successful Wolves team. They love Ant. I think they claim they don't. I think they love Cat too. They love this team, and I think the Wolves, if they start fast, like 13-7, and they put themselves in position to be a top 3 seed in the West, watch what happens to Target Center. It's going to be lit. It's going to be
the
lit,
Wolves,
guys.
The Wolves can be the most talked about program during this winter because the Vikings might be done by late October if they don't get a win in the next 3 games, I'd say. And so it's likely that they won't. So I'm going to go with the Wolves on this. Only reason is because like I watched and everybody's probably seen this, the commercials for TNT's hockey broadcast, and they're trying to hype it up and they're throwing all kinds of graphics behind it. And it didn't get me excited to watch the pregame show. Not going to lie. Like it didn't get me excited. But when you see like Charles Barkley, Shaq, Kenny Smith, like I'm looking forward to watching them talk about Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm looking forward to them talking about Anthony Edwards and where his game goes. And so yeah, I'm gonna go with Wolves. I just think the fact that the preseason it's only been 2 games, but it's looked good. They've looked solid. We haven't seen the full array of what they can do. We haven't seen what this full roster is going to look like come game 1. But I'm excited for basketball season. So I'm gonna leave it there. And then Sam, I know you were looking forward to this one, Sam. I know you were looking forward to it. Take it away.
All right. We got college hockey tonight. Fox 9, 7:30 at the XL Center. I'm on the call with Mark Parrish. We got Gophers, Tommies. New in-state college hockey rivalry kicks off tonight. First time these teams are meeting in 96 years. Back to 1927, the last time these teams met. I think it's going to be a great series. I think that the way the Tommies have grown the last couple of seasons, they're ready to compete with the big boys now. And now they get the ultimate test against the Gophers, who are coming off that crushing loss in the final last year. I think it's going to be an awesome spectacle. You're going to have a bunch of Gopher fans, a bunch of Tommy fans there at the X, and then tomorrow night at Mariucci. Fox 9, both nights. Check it out. College hockey is back, and we've got a new in-state rivalry to talk about. That's going to be super, super exciting.
Julia, any thoughts on Gopher hockey?
Yeah, I mean, you got 10 sophomores coming back from a team that, nearly won a national title. I say Bob Motzko's been very vocal about this offseason, this fall, when they've been training. It's been so much more efficient, which I think should be very scary for anybody that's facing the Gophers when you have that many guys returning. You also have Oliver Moore and Sam Renzel that are freshmen coming in, their first-round draft picks. I did a story with Sam Renzel. The guy's insane on the ice. That was like my first time really seeing hockey up close at that level, was when I did a story with him. The talent is just insane. So I think every one of their opponents has a lot of reasons to be very scared of this Gopher team. And the fact that that's so many sophomores, I can't imagine 2 years from now what that team's going to look like too. I mean, should everyone stay? But I think, lots to be excited about. I think the chemistry, he also talked about, he has some great leadership. He doesn't have a ton of upperclassmen that are stepping into that leadership role, but they've learned from some of the best in Logan Cooley, and like I talked about, Brock Faber on the different ends of the ice. So yeah, really, really nice that he's got so many guys returning this year. For sure.
Minnesota hockey fans are torn because they want Moore and Rinzel to be good, but if they're too good, then they go to the Blackhawks.
Right.
Yeah. So you want them to stick around in Minnesota for a couple of years and avoid going to Chicago.
Yeah.
Don't be too good, but be good. Reggie, before we get out of here, what you think?
Yeah, look, I agree with what Julia said. Big on the Gophers' revenge season. They went out sad, man. They went out sad in that national championship, and I know they want to get back. So they're coming out for blood this year, and they probably want to put it on each and every team that comes their way. So look out, Tommies, but that should be a good one.
Don't sleep on them.
Yeah, I was gonna say when in my mind, and I always forget, like, you know, Minnesota State, Mankato is good, and the Mavericks and all this stuff is good for hockey. St. Cloud State, because in my mind, I'm like, Minnesota should just dominate, you know. But now I'm starting to realize, you know what? Hockey is not about the big schools. It's about these hockey schools that get the good players, like you said. And so this should be an interesting one, because I know the topic's going to come up next is, when is Gopher basketball going to play St. Thomas? Because that's going to be the next conversation. Because earlier, Ben Johnson was saying, like, I don't see a purpose. But is this going to become a new in-state rival where St. Thomas basketball plays Gophers? You know, baseball, I know softball does it. Baseball does it. It's basketball. I know football wouldn't do it, but that would be fun to see Caruso trying to go up against PJ Fleck. But that's another one that's like, what does PJ Fleck have to win with that? Like, what does he gain from playing St. Thomas? But I know this is going to be an all-state hockey thing, because everybody in this state loves hockey. Again, like you said, the call with yourself and Mark Parrish. Sam?
Parrish tonight, and then Pat Micheletti tomorrow.
Oh, look at you, Sam. Like, you guys are just the hockey royalty of Minnesota. I'm Ron Johnson. That's Reggie Wilson. That's Julia Daniels. That's overtime, Julia, for those that want to know. She's predicting Bears-Vikings overtime. She's wishing for it. She's betting on it. So if they go into overtime and you guys are trying to get to your next event, you can't, because you're sitting here watching the Vikings-Bears for a 7-7 overtime game, just blame Julia Daniels. But again, this has been the Roundtable on Locked On Sports Minnesota. And it's going to be a rainy one, but have a good weekend, people.